The following is a presentation of the ForceCenter podcast feed.
From the center of the galaxy, this is the ForceCenter podcast feed, and this particular episode of the ForceCenter podcast feed is the Book of Boba Fett report. There is much to report on here in Chapter 7 of the Book of Boba Fett as we close the book for now, ? Anyway, I'm Joseph Scrimshaw, non-question mark, statement.
I'm Cad Napzok, or you can now say Napzok, Ken. Oh, over the top and fun. Love it.
Look, I prefer Joseph, but for a moment I would consider going down to a one-syllable name so I could join in on the Fett Joe. Stay Joseph and try to work in those extra syllables, not symbols, but symbols as well. I love the drums. Yeah. Pour one out for that astromech drummer droid. My favorite droid in the galaxy right now. So sad. Anyway, there's so much to get into, including the song has lyrics now. But we are going to discuss everything about Chapter 7. The title of that episode is In the Name of Honor, written by Jon Favreau, directed by Robert Rodriguez. About 55-ish minutes of actual story. That was a lot of Boba Fett and friends. We always like to set the scene. Ken, you had your midnight-ish viewing with your partner as normal?
Yeah, a little bit later again. Grace has been doing some acting stuff on Tuesday nights, and we're blessed here on the West Coast to get to watch it at midnight. You know, don't set my alarm for 3 a.m. or anything else, and God bless those out there that are having to do that or choosing to do that. So she got home a little bit later, and it was a test of patience, Joseph. Like, finished up some video games, relaxing after a day of work, and I had like an hour, and I had watched the final based on like a tweet from Molly Damon who had said, I'm rewatching the series. Anyone doing this with me? Yesterday, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do that. I haven't done that in a while. So I watched all 6 episodes, Monday into Tuesday. So I finished episode 6 and then had like an hour before the finale. And that, Joseph, that was a tough test of patience.
Really? To have to wait?
Yeah, so because I knew Grace was going to be home a little bit later, so I was like, I might not be able to start this like 12:30. So I sat there with a stack of G.I. Joe comics, might as well Star Wars comics. Wow, there's a blast from 83 past. So I sat there with Star Wars comics and just kind of read them, right? And I don't even remember what I read. I was just like, finale. So finally got to sit down, saw that it was an hour and was like, we're going to be up late. And we were. Went to sleep about 2. So it was all worth it, man. So it was a lot of fun to take that all in. And it just felt big. It felt finale. It felt like, hey, we're going to see the conclusion. I love that kind of feeling, the event of it all.
It did feel like an event. That's amazing. I wish I had time to do the rewatch. I'm very curious as we discuss this, if you feel like that kind of helped center you on this episode or gave you additional insights as you remembered like very specific beats. Obviously, each week we watch these episodes a lot and kind of talk about them in detail, but there's still a different effect of watching them all in a row very quickly and also watching the earlier episodes knowing where they're going.
Yeah, right. No, I'll say this real quickly. It really worked. And I really love this series for that. Like when you put it all together and it's not just about, that debate of, wait till it all comes together. No, just when you watch the show in a row, like you said, short amount of time, it flowed so nicely into the finale. And I think the finale pays that off. And that's how shows work, right? You rewatch Game of Thrones before the finale. We rewatch Mando, but I haven't gone back and watched Mando 2 since it ended. I haven't. I didn't connect with it in that kind of way. I did connect with this one, and it was fun to just really be fresh going in the finale.
Yeah, I can't wait to rewatch it because this season of Book of Boba Fett, perhaps the only one, we'll see, has so many just absolute pleasures of the surface, of the aesthetic, line delivery, action, comedy. But for me, it also has such great depth that did pay off in this finale, which we'll get into. I related to your need for patience for my preparation for watching this. I prepared by taking what I will describe as a dip in an emotional bacta tank. I feel like this era of Star Wars is such a gift And there's only more ideas, more characters, more variety coming. So I want to have patience for that. But I feel like, talked about this on our most recent News and Cues episode, that there's been a lot of not the creature rancor, but the emotional discussion rancor on rancor on social media. And I really wanted to connect with my own joy. So I just really kind of took a few minutes to just remember, like, you're probably going to see Boba Fett ride a rancor.
Yeah.
You love this series. You love these characters. Just really let yourself enjoy it. And then, we'll engage in the various criticisms. And if they're solid criticisms, we'll enjoy them or talk about them or discuss them or weigh them. And if it's just some people who don't like it and it's kind of the way it's expressed is vitriol, that we'll just let that go. But we'll talk about the conflict, but not engage in the anger. So I kind of just really tried to emotionally prepare myself for that. And I got myself into a really good place to just kind of shut off negativity or second guessing how people are going to react and just really enjoy this episode. I also had that great test of patience because we had a super busy night. And my wife is like really kindly doesn't stay up with me because she can't quite stay awake. She needs to get to work. We watch the next day, and she tries to get done with her stuff and go to bed at midnight. And it was like 11:45, and she was paying bills and finishing up a bunch of stuff. And it's like, it's okay. I understand. I can be patient. It's fine. I can be patient. And she made me a nice martini to celebrate the finale and encouraged me to yell. Because I throughout this journey watching Boba Fett, when she goes to sleep, I'm like, I don't want to wake you. And she's like, no, I like it when I'm half asleep and I hear you laugh or go, yeah. So a martini and an encouragement to yell is a great way to watch Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, it's a great setting the scene to get into the overall reaction there. I think we both have similar journeys, great supportive partners, and just that I feel giddy, getting ready to unwrap a gift.
Yeah, exactly. And that giddiness for me continued. Let's go into our overall reactions. Did you love it, like it, struggle with it? Were you giddy? What was your overall reaction to this final chapter?
Yeah, the reason I think you and I both mentioned our partners, Sarah and Grace, during this journey, other than, our partners, and we love them dearly, it's very important for me to kind of experience it with Grace on the couch and see her who does not know what Star Wars Twitter is. And it's not just about Star Wars Twitter, but is there as a Star Wars fan, and it helps me engage with what is there when maybe sometimes I'm stuck behind a pundit wall. It helps me see maybe what didn't work as much when I'm on top of the pundit wall. Enjoy, it's a good balance, and it doesn't change my opinions and informs them or just gives me a bigger picture, and it's very valuable. This all ended, and she just blurted out, "That was so fun." And that kind of is where I overall land, and we'll get into the nitty gritty on that, of course. But I cheered, I got teary eyed, I smiled, I said, "Whoa!" It was just a fun Star Wars ride. Yes, full of themes and connections and all the stuff we love here in ForceCenter. But and I'll say that I don't know if it was the deepest of episodes. Take it back. There was a lot of depth in individual moments here. It was maybe not even the smoothest episode, especially like Bryce Dallas Howard's episode. You watch that's a smooth piece of art. This one's loud and it's clanky, and Robert Rodriguez is having some fun, and some of the action goes a beat or two, not long, but just goes for a beat or two, longer than you think. And there's all those kind of things to discuss. But this was a big finale in spirit, and it was the explosion of fighting that the show, I think, took its time to build. Therefore, it kind of was earned. It was just as if the show was like, look, we've all done our homework. Now go run around the playground. It's recess. Star Wars needs both. And so all that to say, I just had a fun ride with everything I experienced.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page, and it feels like it's what the intention is. It's not like there wasn't a lot of great action or intense moments, extremely intense moments, and some amazing action in the buildup, but it really was building up to this explosion. And man, I kept thinking of different ways I wanted to describe the sort of the giddiness, the experience of it. One weird way I thought of describing it is this episode was like good cardio. It was just like fist pumping and heartwarming. It made you feel engaged and alive for me because it was such great action, great comedy. And then along the way of the action and the comedy and the fun, like your partner said, it paid off every thematic idea and every question, in my opinion. We'll get into them, but, the question of who is Fett really? Can the people bond together to save their planet, or is that, a flawed idea? Is family the better choice? Is change possible? What is family? All these ideas are absolutely there, but it is wrapped in this very, very Star Wars package, right? It is pulpy, weird action. Those moments where you kind of take a step back and look at what's on screen and go, that's just, there's a little Muppet guy walking up to a mythic beast to use, the mystical power of our cosmic connection to nap together. It's like, it's pulpy and it's weird. But through that pulpy, weird action, it is telling this great didactic, teachable moment story of people working together to make positive change. So it's just this big ball of what I love about Star Wars, including some of its contradictions. It's pulpy and weird and a big B movie on our television screens, but it's got this very heartfelt, mythic, borderline after school special. Let's all work together. And I mean that in a positive way. And then it has this side of, and then along with that, here's some pretty bold, broad comedy and some pretty shocking, brutal violence. And it's
it's got one of the most brutal deaths ever.
It's all these things, and that's what Star Wars is. And I think it's part of the reason that we continue to talk about it, and part of the reason that people continue to have strong opinions is Star Wars has this consistency and these contradictions. One of the biggest ones being this. It's called Star Wars, and a huge part of it is the ships go fast and blasters and swords that cut people's hands off. But then it's always preaching back to pacifism and connection within, sharing that thrill of just kind of bonkers fantasy science fiction adventure. And this was a thrill ride on a rancor, a kaiju battle for the soul of Tatooine. It was so over the top and so Star Wars and so pure and kind at its heart.
Yeah, and I think people get where you and I always come from or where we are now, but I think I almost just want to be clear that there's so much in this episode and this series. The reason I say, I love Mando season 1 and 2, without a doubt, and there's similar themes, right? There's very similar themes. They're playing in the same theme sandbox, if you will. But I think Star Wars, I love when Star Wars does that, but it affects me now more than ever as I get older, more gray comes in, and dramatic changes have happened in my life, or subtle changes, and asking myself who I am. It's not a midlife crisis. I have a 2002 Mustang. That's not too much of a crisis. It was a used car. I didn't buy a new one. But you know what I mean? I was really moved by a lot of stuff there, and this episode kind of brought that all home, and that's where I love to engage with Star Wars right now. Love having the discussions. Do those Vespas still work or not? I don't know. At this point, though, it's what I take from it and apply to my own life. That's why we're still talking about Star Wars. I feel in this episode succeeded in that, even above the action, which was great. But the Fett Cad Bane thematic duel got me in a way that I wouldn't have thought when Cad Bane strolled onto the screen in Clone Wars years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. The way it drove home some of its ideas about working together and is change possible, and where does rage and violence come from, and how can that be handled?
Yes.
All these things are great and complex, but it's all wrapped in this amazing package where, the action and the comedy isn't getting in the way of the depth. It's helping to tell the depth.
Yeah.
A final kind of overall thing for me is I think there's been this big hanging question of, oh, wow, it is definitely strange that Boba Fett didn't feature very much in 2 episodes of Boba Fett. There's been very strong opinions. This was one of those things where I looked to my partner as well, where she's like, I enjoyed both those episodes, but I was distracted watching them, wondering when Boba Fett was going to show up. So I think it all works for me, and it's a valid criticism. It's a valid question. It's a valid concern. And for myself, I was really holding out judgment for this final episode. And I feel like it came together so well. In Chapter 5 and Chapter 6, I think lots of things were being built up about the state of Tatooine, about valuing the people of Tatooine from Pelimoto to Cobb Vanth. Will they, all come together? That stuff is in Chapter 5 and chapter 6, the picture of the Pikes terrorizing the town, the planet, as Pelimoto says. So there was a lot of just crunchy story stuff that was there. But then on a thematic level, I just kind of feel like for me, one of the main big ideas is family and choosing family. And Boba Fett's story about choosing family is the main plot, the A story. And then Din and Grogu are the subplot. Din and Grogu choosing family are the subplot, the B story. Chapter 5 is Din making his choice for family. Chapter 6 is Grogu making his choice for family. And then here in Chapter 7, we see how everyone on Tatooine benefits from Din and Grogu both making those choices.
Yeah. There's been obviously a lot of discourse around it. Again, it do I understand on the surface? I've said 2 weeks in a row, like, I kind of miss Boba Fett. I like hanging out with my friend Boba. So I totally get it. And there's been some downright silly discourse over, what the title is and everything like that. Grew tired of that, quite frankly. But it's not Rebels. Goes Maul, Kenobi, Ahsoka, and Vader, like all factoring into the final thing. It just seemed like that's a natural extension of some of the Star Wars storytelling we've got. And yes, you're right. So let's see how it all comes together and the pieces clicked into place. And everyone affects everyone, which is a big Star Wars theme now, isn't it? I think there was something in Phantom Menace about circles and
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to acknowledge that in the big picture that for me, it did really come together. And now I think we're at that point of like, it's always going to be a question. It's always going to be a fair discussion to me if it's called Book of Boba Fett and Boba Fett is not in one episode and doesn't even have a speaking part in the other. That's always going to be a thing that bumps for some people.
Yeah.
But I really approach it as that Star Wars thing of like, this is the way that these creators wanted to tell this story. And then we get to choose how we react, and it works for you or it doesn't. And for me, it really works because it is all tied up in a beautiful little family bow in this final chapter.
Yeah. Again, end of the day, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work for you. And that's a good spot to be in for yourself too,
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into then the big themes of this episode. What ideas were at stake for you? Where did you go first?
I mean, clearly a lot of big themes explicitly stated, right? The title is about honor. We got a real big question about what is strength coming out of Cad Bane. And I just think I was above it all. Can't wait to talk about all of it, Joseph, but was really fascinated about why we come to the fight. Because we the fight in Star Wars is often an actual fight, but I kind of see that as a cause or what you believe in. And how do you come to that? And more importantly, what is your journey to discovering what is important to you? And I think Fett kind of led that way all through it, showing mercy, trust, and grace to everyone here at one point. At one point, you're just looking around, you're seeing all the characters that play, and we're going to rest in peace, Gamorrean Guard. So we're going to talk about that. But and I'm not digging deep here. I'm not an angel from heaven giving you all insight like this. It's just right there on screen. Fett led this all the way, and everyone comes there through their own journey and by choice for this collective goal. Mando and Fennec had their hand in that as well. Let's be clear. And I just love that. I love that about the big theme. When you look at this finale, you just kind of see everyone has made a choice to stand and fight with this character who at one point was the most stoic, cold-blooded killer for hire that we've known, right? We grew up with that. And now you can just go back with this series and see everyone's path this moment. And it's truly about change, connection, and community. And that's a big Star Wars message and always will be. So I just went from there, Joseph, and asked, like, how does that apply to my life? How does it apply to your life out there listening? What path are you on? What do you want to change? What do you want to process? What do you want to save? What do you want to stand for? What do you want to stand firm on? A lot of this is about change, but also knowing yourself. And I value this series so much for that, as I do Mando. But I think this resonated with me a little bit more. I was joking with my friend, one of our ForceCenter listeners, the great Robbie Smith out there. Robbie, if you're listening, hello. And I was just like, this series was a self-help book for change, processing trauma, growth, all those kind of big things that, me, a person in my 40s, is dealing with, because you know less as you get older, but you start to know more of what's important.
Well, you can get more set in your ways and more sure that the world can't change, you can't change, right? You've been around the block and you've seen it, and things don't change, right? A bit of depending on your perspective, realism slash pessimism
Yeah.
creeps in, and to see Fett challenge that, I so agree that Fett and Din, they are connected. They have some similar experiences, and there are some great benefits to Din being a newer character in Star Wars, and we get to kind of slowly realize some of the things he's wrestling with. But with Book of Boba Fett, with this show, there is an extra power that we've known Boba Fett for a long time, and we've known two sort of conflicting sides of him, right? I is always what I wanted out of this show, and I think it's really what I got of the original trilogy Boba Fett, who is the unknowable solo hunter,
Yeah.
the vicious badass that you can't know in a mask, right? And then the prequels, 20 years on, say, no, like everyone in Star Wars, he's a human, and he's got all these different ways that he can identify who he is. He is a son and a clone and some kind of sort of Mandalorian heritage. He wants to be a bounty hunter like his dad before him, and he's formed by this trauma. And it takes all those ideas, everything that we've known about Boba Fett, and asks us, well, how do all of these things make him who he is, and can he change? Can he change from the way that he's lived in our cultural mind? And I think this episode is a big answer to those questions, right? It shows us who Fett is at this point, that he is a man who wants and honors family and connection, and sees family and connection as strength. He is a man of honor and patience, but he is still a traumatized kid that has had violence be a huge part of his life. And he will offer mercy, he will offer peace, but if it's rejected, he will absolutely slaughter and kill. And I think that was kind of some of those questions when we met him in this new Boba Fett in season 2 of Mando, of like, wow, he's talking about honor, but then he's just taking it to those stormtroopers and seems to be enjoying it. And for me, a little bit, I'll get into kind of, for me, how I feel like the episode reflected it, but I feel like there's a little bit of like, yeah, some things aren't going to change. Well, a ton can change, but he has this rage that's born of trauma, and he can control it, but a part of that rage born of trauma will always be with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you carry that with? Yeah, there's some things that are just, I'll wake up in battle depression every day, right? So like, it's always, how do you deal with that? How do you work with it? And I love that about that. It's just also been very clear. Like, I don't know, you got me thinking about something, just like when he shows back up, these are the questions we had, it's Boba Fett, the guy in the mask, someone who I was like, yeah, cool design. Over the years, didn't connect with him as much. Boba Fett, not one of my favorite characters. I said that time and time and time again. And he shows up, and there's just a clear distinction to do something different with him. Just, we are setting aside. We are doing something different with this character. And I've just been I've loved watching that as it relates to my own life, and hopefully relates to a lot of your lives out there too. Just and the Cad Bane stuff and what Cad Bane represents. Was pretty powerful for that overall theme there.
Right. Yeah. An inability to change is definitely going on. Yeah. I feel like with Boba Fett, we dealt with his past, we dealt with his trauma, but we also, for me, I in every episode, including this one, like I still heard and felt the that deadpan, threatening, no BS, killer, awesome badass that I met in Empire Strikes Back. Right. I mean, some of my favorite comedy lines are just him being like, yeah, no bullshit. So I feel like that Boba Fett was still there. I want to talk about this big theme that you touched on so well. I really think it is. There's a lot going on, but for me, it is the heart of the show. It is the heart of this final chapter. And you could phrase it lots of ways. You could talk about found family versus just looking out for yourself. The idea of being stronger together. The idea of communities, symbiont circles, but just stronger together, family, right? Boba Fett was set on this journey that we see in this show by experiencing family and honor with the Tuskens, right? He's always been he's had these identifiers of who he might be, but he's never really been a part of a family. Tuskens make him a part of a family. He has that epiphany. He says it explicitly to Fennec that it's not weakness, that a tribe is strength, right? So then we catch up with this episode, and there's just constant reinforcement that he has followed the right path, right? The action is that this new family that he's built is almost taken from him, right? The Gamorreans are very sadly lost. A couple of the mods die. But in general, his big his daring question, the thing that in the early episodes, Fennec goes, you shouldn't trust anybody. Sparing the Gamorreans is a mistake. I even felt like maybe Chrysanthemum will be a mistake. So he got me to doubt a little bit. But this whole episode is about the coalition, the vision of family, community is stronger, absolutely holds. And it's demonstrated again and again, right? When Fennec stops by from her main mission to save the mods, and they got that moment of connection of Drash saying thank you and Fennec saying manners, I like it, right? That image of, we'll get into their big conversation about honor, but just the fighting image when Boba and Din first go out there and they take turns getting knocked down and protecting one another under a barrage of fire. It's just like this great image of this idea. Like going back to Sesame Street roots for me, the city folk and the country folk work together, right? And call attention to it of, where'd all these sand scurriers come from? We were here to save the tails of some city rats. And then that even builds to Drash and Joe from Freetown, working together to snipe at that last stand. Not leaving Chrysanthemum behind multiple times.
Right.
This episode's subtitle could be "Everybody Goes Back for Santo." And then I think another big one is that Boba's bond with the Rancor saves everyone, and that reinforces a lot of ideas that have been built up. The way that the Rancor Keeper tells him, it's possible, but you have to work at it. And this great connection where I think Boba sees himself in the Rancor of, they are good at fighting, they have the potential for rage, but that's not all they are. And all of this togetherness is in great contrast to, Cad Bane's argument of, here's my final lesson, look out for yourself. Anything else is weakness. It's so very clearly the idea of the group is stronger versus, just look out for yourself. Everybody will stab you in the back,
Yeah. What is strength? I wrote that down. Like, what is strength? And Star Wars being, and everyone listening, you can take out a pen and paper and make a note. This is great insight. Star Wars is a morality tale. Just write it down. You might never have heard that before. And it needs to keep coming back to that. That's why it's these emotional canon connections we often talk about. Sometimes they're just related to characters and their journeys and their choices. But, there's strains of Rise of Skywalker here. There's strains of Solo. There's strains of Ewoks being great value to the rebels when no one else would have seen that. But Leia handing a cookie to Wicket helps save the galaxy. Like
Padme bowing to the Gungans.
How Padme bowing to the Gungans. Absolutely. Maybe we should start being friends. Like it needs to keep coming up. And that, I guess, also at this point, I'm here for the cool. There's so much cool action, so much Star Wars geekery in here that I love. But I think I'm at the point where I just, every time I come to Star Wars, the table, this is what I want to pull from it. And it's not just about 12-year-olds. I can tell you, I'm not 12. I'm still learning. And it's still good to see it play out this way. And you talk about, again, what is strength? And I just wrote down, strength comes from change, which doesn't necessarily mean, again, leaving who you are behind, but finding out what you want to be and what you want to become. Compassion, empathy, connection, helping everyone. There's so many times during the action here where little things are done. Even Tanty, as we now know his name, proprietor, gives up his cycler to help Drash in her co-mission there with Joe. There's all little things like that. Mando, sacrifice. And it's not so much about the sacrifice of the Gamorrean guards there. Rest in peace again, my brothers. But this the giving up of your own desires, a little bit of that attachment thing comes into play too for me of why you're doing this. And even when Fett is, ready to take Cad Bane early, and Fennec's like, not now, because this is about you. This is not about us, essentially. All that builds into this idea of what is strength. It's that kind of stuff. Yes, it's also physical strength. Santi, Chrysanthemum. I've named my horse in Red Dead Redemption after him now too, by the way, Chrysanthemum. Without a doubt, the strongest and the toughest of the lot, right?
But needs the most help in this episode.
I was really moved by that over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely. And that line from Boba Fett about, yeah, I owe you a big long soak in my bacta tank.
It was great.
So
It was
great.
great. It was great. And as fun as before I forget, like there's the exchange later on. We're going to probably dive into more Cad Bane stuff. When Fett says, "That may be, but I have armor," Bane says, "Let's find out." You and I had that long discussion about armor last week, which is this stand-in for connection, protection, safety, strength, family, all those kind of things. I loved when Boba Fett said that. Yeah, you may be faster than me, but I have armor.
That was the main thing that I wanted to bring up in under this idea of family is especially when I watched it the second time, when Cad's like, I'm faster, he's just like that's everything to Cad Bane. It's got him through his whole life. He's faster. You can move faster when you're alone. And Boba's that may be, but I have armor is literal. But to me, it resonated as armor equals family of like, I have built up this entire family around me. And that is a kind of armor. That Cad Bane doesn't have, even like I have armor in that I have a reason to fight. This isn't just a job for me.
Yes.
This is a choice I made, to your point, that there's a reason that he's fighting, and that's a kind of armor. And I do love that, nobody else actually is in a place to show up to save Fett. They absolutely would have if they weren't dealing with their own problems. But it is the symbol of family, with that gaffy stick, right? And that symbol of working toward what you truly want, for yourself, and being a part of something larger, is what defeats Cad. I think it's also a symbol of change. Of Cad Bane knows how to counteract every bit of weaponry in Boba Fett's armor, right? Because he's seen it a million times. But there's almost this sense that like the gaffy stick is a little something different.
100%. It represents so much. And I know the Tusken journey was very powerful and also elicited very powerful emotions on their end. We know that, and we discussed that. So don't mean to boil it down to one quick little plot point, right? But I don't think it was a quick plot point. It was big. It was important. Not unlike you and I have analyzed Thrawn and Ezra's final moments in Rebels. And it's like Ezra defeats Thrawn with like the one thing he can't see in his Sherlock Holmes mind, right? I took a lot of that from Cad Bane. I really emotionally kind of connected those two moments of Fett only has that weapon because of who he has become through great change and growth. He doesn't have it. If he doesn't go through that, if he never goes in the Sarlacc pit, he might die that day. He might die in front of Cad Bane, but he doesn't because he has that weapon, something he's earned through his journey.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Two other quick thoughts about family. I think, Grogu returning to Din is not just a subplot that has nothing to do with the themes, right? Because this is about the two of them choosing family. And even all the time that we have spent with weird Auntie Pelimoto, every moment that she spent joking with Din and taking care of Grogu, they're like this weird little family unit by the time that we're in this episode. So I feel like they really support the theme. They're not off on their own, having their own adventure,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Love that.
Yeah.
Could we add maybe the major domo marries into that family, the way it's going?
It seems like he is angling to be a stepdad to the pit droids.
That's great.
There's some energy going on there, and there's some framing of shots that's going on there of like weird, like scary space Norman Rockwell framing of Peli and Major Domo going on there.
Love it.
Final thing on this idea of family, I'm sure it'll come up again, but there's that joke at the end, which is a really fun joke about Boba Fett, now that he's won, kind of getting to be a grumpy old man and going, these my two choices, bowing or shooting. And it's a funny joke, but it does feel like that's a joke that's for me captures a lot of the choices that Fett has made throughout of like, he'll shoot when there's no other option and he has to, or he feels it's, you are danger. But he's encountering the Gamorreans, the mods, Chrysanthemum, everybody that he's built this alliance with, his choice has been bowing or shooting. And he's shown them respect. He's bowed,
Right. Oh yeah. Absolutely love that. Can't wait to talk just the end beat there too. I don't know. I really love that. It was a big Star Wars moment for me as well.
With Fett and family at the end.
Fett family end, but even that line of who else but us is a big giant Spirit of the Rebellion moment. It's the Citizens Fleet. It's Tally Lintra leaving Pip Pip 3 to go join a cause that maybe she doesn't even need to, but feels she has to. It's Rose and Paige knowing that they have no other choice than this. Like, I really, and this idea of what is a hero, and it's like, I just really love that line of wrapping this all up of like, we're not suited for this, but you never are. If not us, who? Like, we're here. You're suited for it because you're here. I just was really moved by that too as well.
No, I absolutely agree. I mean, I think it even, I definitely think of like Rose telling Finn how Paige told her, like, now, Finn, he didn't have to help, but he did. That's a hero, you know?
Right.
But it even relates to me of like Luke Skywalker going, oh, it's all so far away from here. And Obi-Wan Kenobi saying, that's your uncle talking, right? It is.
Mm-hmm.
It's this choice to get involved and to respond to the reality that you find yourself in. Um, but I also really love it. It's one of the beats that I wanted to talk about as we really dig into the ideas of change. It's a real moment of change, right? Because Boba Fett has done all this. He's worked so hard for this. He was willing to sacrifice his life if he had to. And now he kind of gets to be this grumpy guy going, oh boy, I won the thing. Now what? And it's funny because it's kind of true of like, okay, well, I used all these skills, but now I'm just kind of, he's not technically the mayor. I don't think he's still the daimyo. But he's like, yeah, I'm walking around in armor with knee rockets and I'm bowing and being handed melons. That's not really my bag. So it's totally understandable for him say we're not suited for this.
Yeah.
And it's a massive change for Fennec. Don't trust anyone. Should I kill them now, Shand?
Yeah.
To be the one who says, if not us, then who? I love that line. For all the reasons that we're talking about making a difference where you are in standing up. But I love it for being a moment of true change for Fennec Shand, who was kind of along on the ride because she made a connection with Boba Fett and respected him. He got into her head that maybe there is another way than just looking out for yourself. But here at the end of this adventure, she's convinced, and she wasn't at the beginning.
Yeah, including being the one to pull him back, right? Before she would have been like, yeah, let's get him, kill. Yeah, no, it was a great thing with them. And I know there's probably even more to explore with her and him and that character. And hopefully we do get that chance. I totally would be on board for the Book of Fennec Shand. But I think she was a powerful, important influence. And it paid off there for me too. Yeah, I agree with you. Growth point.
Yeah. Absolutely. Huge moment of change. So let's talk about some other beats of change. I think you and I are both on the same page that Cad Bane really represents the Boba Fett who never changed, right? That being alone is stronger, being the best is great, a really cynical worldview of everyone is out to shoot you. So the only way to live is to be able to shoot them faster, right? And Cad can't imagine changing. Can't imagine Boba Fett. He bets on Boba Fett's inability to change, right? The way I had kind of thought that Cad Bane was going to have been involved in the slaughter of the Tuskens, being paid by the Pikes. But I love this version of it where he doesn't know about it and he sees it as a weakness, right? That I can go taunt him with it, right? Because he's not going to be able to change. He's going to make stupid mistakes because he cared about those people, and caring about people is a weakness. I thought that was so great.
Yeah, it was a good, I guess I don't want to say twist. We just didn't know. We were all kind of guessing maybe Cad Bane would be the one, but I love that. I love the reveal of the Pikes just being like, yeah, it was, we had to protect our margins. So he like wiped out these folks. Like, yeah, good business decision, right? But yeah, no, absolutely. The look on Cad Bane's face. I love the design of this Cad Bane. Just the like snarling, like, yeah. There's a little crack in that armor that Boba Fett's so proud of. Let me go use that against him. Yeah, absolutely love that. And how, and for me, the death of Cad Bane and the method and the manner and the pain and the combination of pain, relief, anger, violence, everything that was on Boba Fett's face after the kill. was realistic to me. It is, a little bit, you've killed the six-fingered man, and now what are you going to do with your life? But also, just like I saw it as a real slaying of the dragons. You talk about cynicism, realism. There's a fine balance. I'm kind of a realist who dives into cynicism as a sport. It can destroy you, and that he doesn't have. Cad Bane is not coming along and saying, "Hey, don't be like me." One of my favorite characters in Game of Thrones is the Hound, who has a very knows the lay of the land. At the end of the day, is the one who tells Arya, "Don't be like me. This is not what you want to do. You want to get out. I'm pushing you out of this life. This is horrible." All this realism just kept me trapped in this kind of cycle, and I think a lot of this episode is about breaking some, and season is breaking some of the cycles. So I love the death of clearing some of that cynicism from his life, if you will. And it worked for me as an end to Cad Bane, an end to the feud. And I'd love to see the deleted Clone Wars stuff put in Bad Batch still, but it meant a lot for this journey of Boba Fett to put to rest someone who's always there going, "You made the wrong move. You should have stayed who you are."
Yeah, is sort of a mentor figure who, like, that's what, obviously Boba wanted to follow in his father Jango's footsteps, but Cad Bane was his vision of what he could be, the best of the best, right?
Yeah.
Unstoppable, unhurtable, unfazable, Yeah, no, I think there's so much great stuff in there, and it's laced throughout all this great, space spaghetti western and very Star Wars lines, unflinchingly weird, pulpy Star Wars lines. Like, I love that exchange where Boba says, calls Cad Bane a gutless murderer, and super cool Cad Bane says, "If that's not the quackta calling the stiffling slimy." It's so great. It's so ridiculously over the top in a way that I mean is a huge compliment.
Yeah.
But it is just saying, like, we are the same. I don't even believe this. And, the fact that with the help of his friends, Fett resists the vengeance bait is this a real test to his ability to change. And in particular, of everything that Fennec says to Boba Fett, I love that she says, "We need to adjust." You
Yes.
pointed out that it's a Boba Fett, this is about you. If you take the easy vengeance bait and try to kill him now, it's about you. But I love the word adjust, because this is about change, right? And it's Fennec, who's always been like, "Yeah, I know what to do, shoot him." And this is Fennec saying, "No, this is, we want to control the way this happens. We need to change our plan. We need to adjust." It's about change, right?
Yeah, and she follows it up with, like, "You'll get your chance. Like, don't worry, you'll get your chance." But this would be about you right now. It's Ahsoka asking Din, "Why you want to do this?"
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that once Cad goes through this exercise and doesn't bait Boba Fett, it's like he's got to take off his cool hat and scratch his head and go, "Well, what's the deal then?" Right? Because it's so unbelievable to him that Fett can change. So then the next confrontation we see, Cad Bane just says it, right? "One thing I can't figure out, what's your angle?" From a cool angle. A cool shot angle. So, like, Cad Bane is so desperate to make sense of it. It's not just two philosophies that disagree. It is Cad struggling to make sense of it. He says, "You gave it a shot. You tried to go straight." I guess I get that. Sometimes people go straight because I can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
But you've got your father's blood pumping through your veins. You're a killer. Like, Cad Bane can't imagine a world where Boba Fett has actually gone through the change that he has.
Yeah. I had a friend say to me one time, he's like, "You've changed, man. I just don't know what to do with that." Great. That's not on me, man. Yeah. Take your toothpick out and grab your duster and then get on down the road. Yeah. I love what you're saying. I love the two matchups. And even going to last week with Cad Bane going, "Oh yeah. Let me tell you, Cad Bane, here's who Boba Fett really is."
Yeah.
Love that they keep just driving it home. Like, it's there in lights, right? All the stuff in Cad Bane is up on the marquee.
Yeah, and sometimes when a character like Cad Bane dies, there is a moment, like the Hound. The Hound goes through lots of changes, but there's sometimes that moment of, like, "I lived my whole life like this and I couldn't stop it, but maybe you can." Like, sometimes there's that moment of, like, "Well, that's it for me, but maybe there's hope for the future." There's
Yeah.
none of that with Cad Bane. Like, Cad Bane, like, he turns being killed with a gaffy stick into, I was right. I won the rhetorical point. Yep, you're a killer.
Yeah, even in death, point me. Yeah.
Yep. Well, I might be dead, but I won the debate.
Yeah. Cad Bane is clout chasing for debate points right there. You may have killed me, but I was right.
Yeah, but I do think so that's the Cad Bane on changing perspective, but I do think it's really interesting when we're trying to answer this question of who is Fett, and it's kind of almost a similar question that was raised in that great Mandalorian season 2 episode where he's all about honor and I'll stay with you and I'll help you get your child back, and I'll stay with you, Mando, until it's done. But these stormtroopers, I'm gonna smash their skulls with great anger and glee. Like, how does that work, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like on one hand, Boba Fett has this victory of everything we're talking about with the gaffy stick, that it represents family, it represents change. Killing Bane, I think, is sort of symbolically killing his old ways, killing a vision of who he would be if he was even older and he never changed. But it is just murder, right? It's not like a Jedi going, oh, well, yes, I defeated you and that's good enough, and now you're going in chains. There's never any sense of like, I'll give Cad Bane another chance, right? Like Boba Fett has given everybody else change. I think for me, it is that this is where I go to. He has changed a lot, but there is still that rage born of his trauma. I think every time he has got those wild, furious fighting eyes, he has seen his father's head get cut off, and he is lashing out. And what I really love, Ken, go with me here on this for a second. He kills Bane. He defeats Bane. Some symbols of his change within that, but he kills him, and he got that great weird phasing shot of him just kind of sitting and simmering in that rage, and then he just kind of turns around and walks away from it for now. But then we immediately transition to the Rancor, who has been sort of philosophically connected to Fett as both being powerful fighters, beings capable of rage, beings pushed to rage by other people because that's what's expected of them. And the Rancor has not only been fighting, but driven to this rage by Cad Bane just shooting it in the face with flames. So we transition from Boba Fett's moment of rage into the Rancor rampaging as a result of, trauma and violence. And then we go from that to this great hero moment of Grogu not raising his little hand and pulling the Rancor's heart out of its throat, but benefiting from the change that Grogu has gone through, benefiting from this vision of balance and peace that Luke showed him in the previous episode, I think, and soothing that rage. And I feel like kind of through the Force, it can be as simple as like, he was using the Force to put him to sleep. But like on a thematic level, on an emotional level, the impact to me is, trauma breeds rage, but that doesn't need to be the end of the story. That doesn't need to be the end of the cycle. If somebody else reaches out and helps you calm from that rage, it doesn't have to define you.
Yeah, it's a good bookend to chapter 2, right? Where he with the Mudhorn. It's a growth point for that. But I think it's a little bit of the one frog and a frog community. it's all of that. And it could just be you could look at it just a nice go to sleep force power. You press X and R1 and you win the boss fight. But no, you're absolutely right. An answer to that rage. Even you see, I guess we were upset in a good way. We were really engaged with the story, but when everyone's shooting the Rancor, it's like no, and then there's Din going no.
Yeah,
and I wasn't, again, mean this in a good way. Wasn't surprised when it was Grogu, right? It's just building towards that. The big and the big versus the small versus the big, but this great peace in that moment. You asked me to go with you. I will go with you in that connection. From being faced with your violence being challenged and pushed by rage with Cad Bane, and then here you got the solution to it, just with a nice little 3-finger magic hand thing.
Yeah, and I think the way it was done, it was so much about Grogu's growth from, frogs are dinner to, oh, frogs are sometimes sentient beings.
Yeah.
But also just like there's that great part in the previous chapter where Grogu's struggling and Luke just brings him up to those reeds and looks out over like the calm, peaceful world and talks about like there's balance and you'll feel it. I think Luke feels that, and I think he wants to try to impart that. We'll talk in many other episodes about whether Luke's choices were good, bad, or otherwise.
Yeah.
But I just kind of felt like, for the limited time he was with Luke, he did find some level of peace, and it is obviously a resolution to a conflict. But the fact that Grogu then goes up to this creature that just tried to eat his dad, and doesn't lash out, it's like, I know where you're at. I've been there. I've thrown some tantrums too, Mr. Rancor. Pets the face, and then in one of the best moments of the episode, cuddles up for a great post force use nap. And it's not, he doesn't just fall where he stands. He takes that effort to walk over there and cuddle. It's so emotionally about the opposite of rage.
Yeah. First of all, you said one of the best shots in the episode. One of the best shots in Star Wars. Completely.
I sit corrected.
That was, and I'm calling him, until I'm told otherwise, Ranky the Rancor. To nestle up against Ranky was just beautiful on so many levels. Tears were flowing in our house of just the cuteness overload. But I love you attaching it to the balance. And yes, there's so much more. We're gonna have a lot of fun diving into Luke stuff. I take it as fun. I know there's been some debate online too, and attachment and Jedi are horrible. This and that. I get it, but I still take it as fun. Of like, why is Luke saying that at that moment? What does that mean for Luke? What does it mean for Grogu? The Reed moment is a beautiful moment with beautiful music cues and beautiful. Just you'll find that balance. So again, you asked me to go with you. I'll take you. I'll take you on that journey. I'll go with you. I'll hold your bags on that journey.
Well, thank you. I have one other thought on change that I want to see if you will go with me on as well. When we were talking about this show, when it was just trailers and our imagination, you and I talked a lot about like, oh, well, this is going to be a crime show. This is going to be like Boba Fett in The Godfather. I thought I was maybe being wild to go like, this reminds me of The Wire, because there's so much in The Wire where different people on different sides representing different factions are like, wait, this is all cyclical and destructive. Can we change the system? And everybody going, nope, no. System change makes us uncomfortable. And wondering, are they going to go there with Boba Fett? And I feel like it was a light touch, but it definitely did come across this final episode. There's a huge thing of change about the spice trade, right?
Yeah.
Where Fennec is like, I'm not sure if we need to be making these deals about no spice trading. Like, yeah, we got to get the Pikes out of here, but there's a lot of credits to be made from that orange powder, she says.
Yeah.
And then, PSA Boba Fett says, in the long run, it is better for us as well. Most Espa can become a prosperous city under our protection. Spice is killing our people. So to me, it is this real willingness and battle to change the system, right? For Boba Fett to go, I don't know if I want to be a crime lord, because, hey, if I truly offer protection and, citizens give me, basically pay me taxes, do I need to be a crime lord, or can I just be a leader who says like, hey, if all these people are alive and thriving and not, making bad choices because they're on a drug, robbing each other because they're on a drug, unhoused because they're on drugs, that maybe that would be a prosperous, a better situation for all of us. I understand there's a ton of strong feelings about this. Of Boba Fett, the badass bounty hunter, is doing an anti-drug PSA. Like, I know there's some very strong opinions about it, and I'd be happy to engage with that at some point. But for me, in the big picture of change, it's not just personal. It's not just this community. It's this willingness to change the system and rework it so it's not about, hey, yeah, spices kind of makes a mess of our society, but it makes us money, so screw it. Who cares? There's not the cynicism of, it's gonna happen, so someone has to do it. Who cares if it's me? Which I thought might be Boba Fett's approach. But instead, it is, no, actually, I'm going to extend this idea we are stronger together to change this system of as it relates to spice.
Yeah, I put this kind of get in my discussion of how the themes reflect the larger story morality of Star Wars that we always love to discuss. I wrote down, Joseph, breaking the cycles, Star Wars redemption stories of just Tatooine itself. How many times have we heard, especially once we got to Freetown, which, by the way, it's called Freetown. I love those beats. Of Tatooine's seen enough. This planet's seen enough. Go back to Fixer and Cammy. This ain't right. We see the effects of the cycle, right? For not Cad Bane, for Boba Fett to be, we talked about the importance of him having his feet on the ground, and even is them saying it very explicitly, like, don't go run to your castle, in the city, I'm with you on that, and so this whole thing of it wasn't just an after school special moment. I saw it as breaking the cycles of pain, violence, and desolation there.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think for me, the last big theme in this episode I want to talk about is honor. Are you willing to get into honor?
I'm an honor guy. Yeah, I'm an honor guy. Yeah, absolutely. Loved it. And again, from the title on down to people showing their lack of honor, the mayor and the Gatras, a lot of those, and others, again, I explicitly stated is the big phrase for this episode, because so many times it just was like, here's what we're dealing with. I got honor. I'm sticking around, even if we die together.
Yep. I mean, and that was the thing for me, is there's a kind of this juicy conversation between Fett and Din, but so much of about was Boba Fett just doing like, yeah, I'm going to do what I said I was going to. I promised to protect Tatooine and Mos Espa in particular, so I'm willing to die. He tells Din he can't go. He says, I can't abandon Mos Espa. These people are counting on me. I love that he told the people he was strong. This chapter bookends so well with the first one. It's like, I'm going to walk out there on my feet, like you said, and I'm going to show these people I'm strong. I got attacked because I don't have my feet under me yet, and they had to see me run away. And that gets called back with that great jerk line from Cad Bane about, now is about the time you jet off to your Bacta tank. And in Fett's reply is, this is my city, right? That's so about honor. And then I really want to hear your thoughts on this conversation between Din and Boba Fett. They're kind of coming at honor in different ways. Boba Fett has made this pledge to protect Mos Espa, and he's not backing down. He kind of thinks it's okay and offers it for Din to leave, right? But Din's devotion to the creed keeps him there after multiple offers to leave. I'm with you until we fall. And Boba Fett saying, you really buy into that bantha fodder? I do. Good. What did you think of that exchange?
I thought it was, looking from the perspective of Mando and what he's gone through, and him using "this is the way," not just a fun callback, but I think that's changed for him now, right? And I'm still curious to see what he does with that when he goes forward. What does he do that when he meets up with the armorer again? I think it speaks to personal codes of honor, personal codes of loyalty. I even put on the subject of creeds and beliefs. Same with Grogu and his choice. Maybe we'll learn more about that specific moment. I would have loved Luke to see Luke's face after that, digitized it all. Like, okay, you chose the chainmail. Okay, that's good, sir. Sounds good. Can I get my tuition back? But it's this end journey of why I keep saying why we come to fight, but just the choices you make and where you and I keep talking about change, but sometimes it's knowing when to stand firm on something. But it might be a little different. And for Mando, it's a little different now. This is the way has new meaning to me.
Yeah, I felt like this is the way was a little bit different because he is still committed to the creed. I think his mission is going to be to try to go to those mines to set things right. He hasn't broken with the armor yet. She told him he wasn't a Mandalorian anymore, but he is clearly keeping his own counsel on that, including considering Grogu in himself a clan of two. That I feel like, but this is the way I had a feeling like it's still my creed, but I'm going to interpret it in the way that I believe,
Yeah.
And and like he said, he to the armorer, he thinks the Mandalorian creed is what was it? Loyalty and protection. I'm paraphrasing from previous episodes, but it feels like that's what he is thinking about. And it's just one line, but for me, I was really happy. I kept wanting to get a little sense of how Boba Fett felt about the whole Mandalorian thing. whatever Jango Fett's life experience was with being a foundling, then becoming a bounty hunter, he
Yeah.
clearly didn't pass on any great reverence for the creed
Yeah.
to Boba Fett, even though they're in alignment about it. And Boba Fett's happy that the creed's working out because his buddy's going to stay there and have his back.
Yeah.
That he really meant what he said when they met in the rescue. And Boba Fett asked him if he was Mandalorian. He's like, I don't have any allegiance, right? That this is a personal thing.
Yeah. Boba Fett's like, I believe, I just don't go to church.
I don't like other people telling me what to believe. I figured this out for myself. Yeah, I don't need to sing your songs. I'll do this myself. Yeah. I also just like it's almost comedic, but a great thematic thing. I loved the agreement between Boba Fett and Din Djarin that the crime lord's totally dishonorable betrayal was strategically sound, right? When they say all three Gotras turned on us, it was a smart move. It was.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a funny beat, but for me, it shows that that they're not having flights of fancy in their change or in their hewing to their creed. They're very aware that honor in connection comes with sacrifice, and they're choosing it.
Yeah. I threw out that word sacrifice too before. Yeah, I think that's important. Note there. Yeah, and I love it's my second Princess Bride reference of the day, but we are men of action. Lies do not become us. Yes, it was a very good move. I would have turned on me too, I guess. Yeah, I love that. It's a fun comedy beat. Yeah, no, yeah. Sorry, I lost my own train of thought there, but yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff. You already brought up some ways that you feel like this episode connects to a larger storytelling, morality perspective of Star Wars. Is there any other thoughts there?
Just again, the big picture of it all, and the reason I put Breaking the Cycle Star Wars redemption stories. There's a lot of the Star Wars redemption stories we deal with Vader and Kylo and beyond. To me, have to do with breaking those patterns, those repeating cycles in our own life, and they're just these. Sometimes you can. Sometimes we can get caught up, and it's fun to get caught up in the details of, Vader killed a lot of people. He stood by with the Death Star. Kylo supported Starkiller Base, and there's this check mark of bad deeds they've done. But Star Wars understands that. But Star Wars is telling a bigger tale. Again, I don't know if you all heard this. It's a morality tale. I don't know. I read it in a book somewhere. I just love that. And so this episode just kind of had a lot of that big picture stuff of everyone there. That's what I mean. Like if you were to, I'm not saying they did it this way. I don't know Jon Favreau personally again. But it's like, did you write the final episode, not the episode, write the final beat of everyone's in town to defend Tatooine in theory, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at who's in town. We got this Chrysanthemum guy that's worked with, but feuded with Boba Fett before. We've got the Gamorrean guards from the previous leadership. We got city folk, we got town folk, we got youth, we got age, we got older folks. What brought them all here? And what changed in their life? What is their own redemption tale to get to this point, to work to, Tanty being like, that's a city folk problem, to now being like, the city is safe. and saying his exact line is like, Mando says, you didn't have to come here. And Tanty says, yes, we did. This planet deserves better. It just all falls into that big Star Wars redemption category for me. Vader had to do what he did. At that point, he felt that was the only choice. Kylo, Ben, now back with Rey, I think that was part of his redemption story. And that's general. I'm generally looking at the big redemption stories in Star Wars, Joseph. But like I'm just in this episode, it just matched up with me. That was the big theme at play.
I think so too. I think it's such the main themes that we've been talking about of is change possible within that is redemption possible. Can you get past the fear of connection and the fear of betrayal to take this great risk, almost this daring to hope, right? The fear of hope, of making yourself vulnerable by taking that leap and going, should I trust that we could all work together and it would actually end up better? And it is just taking that huge leap with all these characters making this choice to push through that fear and actually work together in a way that's going to be beneficial for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's also for me the defense, right? We're going to talk so much about all the great action, but a little bit of the thrill of the fighting all comes from like we are defending our town, right? This isn't like a civil war where one half of Mos Espa. This isn't turned against itself or Mos Espa versus Mos Eisley. This is so set up as interlopers, right? Who want to profit off of our pain and our resources, and we are defending against them. And there aren't any Jedi here, Grogu's force powers aside, in training. But Boba Fett tries to de-escalate this conflict again and again through this story, right? He just wants to be fairly paid by the Pikes, and they escalate even with that great tablet bit of comedy. It is sort of like one last chance, like leave.
Yeah.
So for me, defense is a big Star Wars theme as well.
Yeah, and that we keep talking about connections. There was one little idea behind Fett going to get Ranky the Rancor. Is this energy weapons, kinetic weapons, and the fire spray ships probably in the hangar there, but you're going to maybe destroy half the city. In that. And yes, I know Ranky goes on a video game rampage, but it would have been different. But it's the thematic use of Boba Fett goes to get something organic he's made that connection with, and it just symbolizes the rest of that concept of connection in Star Wars. And you and I talk about organic versus mechanical is so big too. But even beyond that one, for this one, it was a connection that was made with something that he was taught for years. You can't connect with a killer like a Rancor or a Boba Fett. You just can't connect to them. They're killers. And so I love that too.
Yeah, for me, one of the huge ones is that organic versus mechanical. I love all the different ways that it can be expressed in Star Wars. And having a beast that people think is wild and doesn't have anything to it but just mindless violence in eating, to have Boba Fett have made a bond with it and then have this organic creature having this kaiju battle with these mecha droids, Scorpionic droids is so great. And I wrote down that line you're talking about. Our energy weapons can't get through and our kinetic weapons have too much velocity. I feel like they maybe invited George Lucas to write that line. That's such a George Lucas line.
Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah. Last thing for me, Lucas has been explicit in interviews, particularly in the prequel era, of making things about greed. If you listen to the way the word greed pops up and when it does in the prequels, it's tied to the dark side for Lucas and his criticisms of our individual failings and our institutional failings. And I like that was touched on with Pike and Bane being all about themselves, of that great Pike line of like, we have to protect our margins. Indeed, you do. It's just some classic greed going on there.
Yeah, and it in a way it I don't know, should upset you, right? It should upset you.
Yeah,
Pike saw it. Nothing is a business move. That's wrong. It should be wrong.
Yeah, it's just business. Yep. So we always like to touch in on the chapter title. This one was In the Name of Honor. This was actually spoken dialogue that with the line, okay, then we'll both die in the name of honor. They said the name of the episode in the episode, Ken. Yeah. What did you make of that title? Did you feel like it is just absolutely directing us to this is the choice that Boba and many of his friends are making to have honor?
Yeah. Other than I think it's one of my favorite titles of the series so far. From the Desert Comes a Stranger is great too. When you think of honor, right? Honor and glory. It's a statue on the hill. This person, we have great honor for this person, and it's a wonderful word to chase. But often it comes with great sacrifice, and sometimes great loss, and sometimes really needing to know who you are. So when it actually pops up in the episode, and it comes from kind of this idea of like, all right, we're going to die in the name of honor. Yeah, we are. Like that to me was a statement on not true honor, but just a statement on the concept of it, and kind of made me wrap my head around what that word means when I hear it.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. I think for me, it raised that question and really put it under a spotlight of almost everybody here could try to just leave, but they're not leaving. They're defending this place, their home, in the name of honor. I thought it was really well done, and I didn't even mind that the characters straight up said it.
No.
Was there anything that you disliked or questioned in this episode?
Overall, no. Like I said up top, it was a big, wild episode, and some of the action continued to go. And I you can take this a bad way, or you can take it as just an okay thing. I had fun with it, right? It was just this episode. It was a rock song, right? This was a banger to close the show. I think it did its job. So I don't dislike any of it, nor question it. I just sometimes things pop up, and it's hard for me to not see it or say it. I still think you're watching a TV show, and as a Star Wars fan, this is why I love that I have TV shows. I love that I have animated shows and books and comics, and I can't wait to get back to a theater where I just feel I am completely surrounded by this, right? It's just a different experience.
Yeah.
So this episode, as big as the action was, and by the way, Ranky the Rancor looked beautiful. Everything about him was just some of the most beautiful stuff. I think even better than any technological achievements with a certain Jedi. And the Rancor, that was his actual voice, I heard. They brought him in. It looked wonderful, right? It just looked wonderful. But it's still, I'm still watching it on my couch in my living room. And as a Star Wars fan, it just made me appreciate this and can't wait to get back into the theater.
Yeah, no, I mean, I felt like this was quite large for my television, but I understand what you're saying. I think even just watching this exactly, to me, as it was shot with the level of technology that it has, watching this in the theater where you can feel the Rancor's roars in your sternum. Like, I don't have that nice of a speaker set up, right? And you're with other people and you're cheering. I do miss that experience with Star Wars, and I hope to have it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only thing for me is something that I was like, I'll wrestle with that a little bit on my first viewing, and then on my second viewing, I just accepted it because it works. The fact that the end beat of the episode before the little mid credits scene is not on Fett but on Din and Grogu. I think that kind of ongoing debate about it's called the Book of the Boba Fett. Should have the last actual beat been Boba Fett? I went to bed thinking, maybe that's something that I'll question. But watching it again in the flow of like it or not, these are intertwined tales, and thematically they're connected. But it just works so well to pan up from Boba Fett standing safely in the middle of the streets that he protects with his family, with a borderline sitcom joke about a Wookiee and melons, which I say that as a compliment.
Yeah.
Panning up and seeing like, here's Tatooine, here's what they protected, here's this planet that matters with these twin suns, and then going up into the stars. That just worked for me. And if you had flipped it around, so you had the fun beat with Din and Grogu first, and then ended on Fett, it wouldn't have had that same great flow.
Yeah, no, it would have been the chorus before the verse, I think there. Yeah. And
well said.
Yeah. And you want to go sing it on the way out. It's okay. I will not engage anyone online, in person with the title Discourse. I'm sorry to be grunt. I just don't care. It's called the Book of Boba Fett, and it's connected to Mando-verse. You either like it or you don't, and we'll shake hands and we'll go to separate hotel lobby bars. I just don't care. But you're not wrong, right, Joseph, in the sense of, oh, hey, okay, we're going up. But it's just, I get the sense of we are now, that is that story continues here in its own world. And maybe we'll talk about if we get more Book of Boba Fett 2 or whatever. And now we're going back to this side of the galaxy, and it is this not a shared universe, but it's just we're in this little corner of Star Wars, this little era of the Mando-verse, whatever you want to call it. And I just kind of like, it wasn't like passing through, but it was like the story is now moving this way, just like we got that tag of, for a while, we got this big moment. Luke just took Grogu and everything, and got some credits. Have you got your breath? Good. Boom. We're going to spend some time here with this character. And it's just moving along. The concert's going this direction now. And I agree with you. It could stand out, but I liked it in the end. Plus, it was really funny. It was really sweet.
Super funny, super sweet. Yeah, no, and I wanted to share that. I don't just instantly love everything. I have to question things. And I think that for me, it really, really did work. And I think it was funny and sweet, but it also emphasized the connection of this whole show was about Boba Fett choosing family and other people changing and seeing that was a valid thing to do. And Din and Grogu's part of this story was They were no longer just together out of circumstance or just until they could finish this quest. In the course of this show, Din and Grogu chose one another. They chose family, and that's the beat we're ending on. Yeah. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back to discuss some of the great canon stuff, comedy, and there was a little bit of action in this episode as well that we will talk about. Back in a moment. And we are back to continue our discussion of Book of Boba Fett Chapter 7, In the Name of Honor. Ken, let's talk in the name of canon. I feel like going through this episode, there were a lot of fun little things, but a lot of those fun little things were building on stuff we've already seen. So I wanted to go first to just, to me, one of the biggest sort of lore connections and the connection between the different styles and places of Star Wars storytelling. I want to talk about Cad Bane and Boba Fett's shared history.
Yeah.
In their second showdown in particular, when Cad's pushing Boba and Boba says, "Don't toy with me. I'm not a little boy any longer." And at one point in their conflict, when it looks like Cad has the upper hand, he says, "This isn't the first time I beat you out on a job." Having watched some of their journey in Clone Wars, being aware of that animatic of a possible conflict and showdown between them, did you feel like that added to you? Did you get any sense that it took away from your partner's enjoyment not having that information? Where do you go with all this?
No, and I almost said, but pulled back from going, he gave Boba that dent.
Right.
I didn't want to be that person in that moment, albeit in other times. You highlighted the line I love the most of Boba Fett going, "I'm not a little boy anymore," because it made me just go, I've seen the Clone Wars. He was. Oh my God, it's great. No, I loved it. And I love it. And I keep saying, Bad Batch, and a lot of discussion on who shows up in Bad Batch or not. But I would love to see Cad Bane pop back up. I know he was there before, but I'd love to see him pop back in and that kind of have that resolution of that chapter of their lives of Boba getting the dent and everything that we've seen from that unreleased animatic. It just would be fun and have more weight now, just because I sometimes love to know where the journey ends and know where we are in that time and study where the characters are in that time.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you of I really like that I'm not a little boy any longer, because it is rewarding to me when that's who Boba Fett has been for 20 years. We knew him as a young traumatized boy. Then we got to see him in the Clone Wars trying to become a fearsome bounty hunter and getting manipulated by cruel, heartless people like Aura's saying, being pointed towards a little bit of honor from, the legacy of his father by Hondo. So there was that richness for me of I'm not a little boy any longer, of yes, here are the episodes where we can see him being a little boy. But it's also I feel like it is also totally relevant to the journey that this show has taken us on. We've seen multiple flashbacks to his youth, to missing his father, to that lack of connection, to him bringing up in conversation, I grew up on an ocean planet. The vulnerability and the emotions and the desire for family that he had as a child have been a part of his journey. So it did not at all feel to me like this is just an asterisk. Check out the Clone Wars. This felt about this show as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very, very much building on everything that's come before and everything we haven't seen before, but love the history. Cad Bane being in this series ended up being a big win for me. Not that Cad Bane's been one of my favorite characters for a while, but I said last week how now I feel like I have permission to love him even more because more the Star Wars world has seen him. It's silliness, by the way. Love what you want to love. If Joe Yaos is your favorite character, he's your favorite character. Done with it. But it was an important use. You and I always say Star Wars, this idea of nostalgia or hey, they bring back characters that we're too familiar with. I get some of the overall discussions on that, but I want to know how you're going to use them. And this use of Cad Bane scratched that itch and checked all the marks for me.
Yeah. And with that other line, this isn't the first time I beat you out on a job. I'm still hoping to see a version of that animatic of a conflict between young Boba Fett and Cad Bane for a couple of reasons. I love the character of Boba Fett, Clone Wars was building to that moment where he gets the armor and he puts the armor on and kind of becomes the Boba Fett that we know of the Imperial era, right? So I would love to get that beat. I think it would be even richer that Cad Bane was involved in that. I like the motivation that Cad Bane didn't get a chance to prove he was better than Jango, so he wants to fight this child to prove he's better than the Fett blood. And I think all of that, if they did a version of that in Bad Batch, it wouldn't feel to me like just random cameo time because Cad Bane has already appeared, because it is about clones, and that is a part of Fett's legacy as well. I would love to see that. Are you still hoping for that?
Almost to the point of predicting it, but big hope. I just think it would work really well.
And are you okay with the death of Cad Bane? It always, I know some people were like so thrilled to see him last week, but then like, and that means he's probably gonna die. How do you feel about it?
Yes. I feel. I said yes. Just random said yes. No. I like it. I like it a lot, actually. The reason being, if you're going to end a character's story, I'm always going to say, we went with the big discussion around Luke Skywalker, Last Jedi. Like, okay, if I wasn't happy with that version, let's analyze why, and maybe what else would I have wanted. And with Luke, it was like, do I want him to get blown up in an X-wing or chopped in two? No, I end up liking that version that they put out there, this Peace and Purpose. So with Cad Bane, I love this character. I don't want him to survive and retire and live off his winnings like nothing ever happened. Like, he's got to pay for it here. He's a bad dude. He's done some horrible things. And it's sometimes fun to, I don't know, not root for the bad guys, but you get invested and they have cool dusters and you like them. This is what I would have wanted at the hands of Boba Fett in a meaningful way, and how it represents an important part of Boba Fett's change and a chapter in his life. Yeah, give it to me. I'm fine with this. You can go back and give me more Cad Bane during his prime.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that this has opened up this massive swath of Cad Bane storytelling where we don't know where he's been. We saw him early in the Imperial era in Bad Batch. We don't know why he's not first on Vader's Rolodex, and there's going to be some fun stories to be told with that, who he's involved with during the Imperial era, what he's up to. So there's plenty of Cad Bane storytelling to be done, maybe even room in some live action show. Why not? So I'm okay with him dying, because in Star Wars, a character dying does not mean the stories are done.
Yeah, no.
So rest in peace, Cad Bane, killed by a gaffy stick and his inability to change.
Yeah.
There's a couple little fun things. I loved the line that all depends on how much your two stomachs can bear. Get to hear about some Thorian anatomy being made canon. I like Pelimoto saying, "Officer, I filed for my New Republic certification seal just as you were landing." Great humor, but continues to flesh out the idea that, like, no, the New Republic's really trying to government up this joint.
Yeah.
A fun one that I was like, I wonder if that's been around. I gotta Google that. Peli feeds Grogu dung worms. So dung worms are from this, to me, very weird video game that I have great memories of playing. The Phantom Menace video game. It's available a couple places. I played it on the PlayStation 1. Here's what Wikipedia says, Ken. It's so much fun. Dung worms were edible animals on Tatooine. Qui-Gon Jinn discovered a Bith merchant selling them in Mos Espa, and the Jedi Master unfortunately acquired their stench during the encounter. This led to many snide comments, including that he was stinky, and his being told that he needed to take a shower. This unearthed deep, deep memories of that happening to me in the video game.
Love it. And they taste great.
They made Grogu do a little head bounce, that little
Mm-hmm.
Good, great stuff. I also liked seeing, this is a little thing, the Aqualish having the DL-18 blasters, like what are in my mind the Return of the Jedi blasters, because so many of the Jabba's guards had them, and they came with so many action figures. It's the blaster that Luke tries to shoot Jabba in the face with.
Yep.
Great. The land speeder that is kitted out with a nice blaster that the Freetown folk bring into Mos Espa is a V-35 Courier, which is the other land speeder in the Lars Homestead garage, the one that Luke doesn't take.
That's right. It was vaguely familiar. I had that moment of, I've seen you before.
I know you. Yeah, and then the Scorpionic Annihilator droid. I feel like if you just see them, obviously we spend a little time in the episode on their energy shields. They definitely feel like these are super droidica droids.
Yeah.
I looked up that they are based on concept art from Attack the Clones, and they have only up to this point, according to Wikipedia, appeared in Legends era resource guides. So this is really taken that Star Wars philosophy of no design is going to go left unused and really bringing it up to the big time.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Hey, we need some menacing droids. So what do you got, concept artist Doug Chang? What do you got? Well, we had this thing laying around. I love that.
Yeah. We need some mecha rancors to fight the rancor. Do you have any droids that could work for that? And it's totally what's going on there. You already pointed this out, but I wanted to be sure to celebrate the canon that we have the Weequay bartender's name Tonti, right?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Last kind of lore thing that I wanted to discuss is more moving forward rather than something from the past. But Cobb Vanth lives, right?
Yeah.
That great mid-credit scene where we see that Cobb Vanth is in the Bacta tank. We heard that it was being used. We had a bit, just a few moments to guess, well, who's in there? And then we see that the mod doctor is ready to do some work on old Cobb Vanth. How are you feeling about that mid-credit scene?
It's so funny. I actually, we were watching the scene, and I missed who was in it. And I look, and I'm seeing, the doctor, and Grace is like, "Oh my gosh, see, I told you." And I'm like, "Who was in there?" She's like, "You didn't, Timothy Oliphant." I was like, "Oh." And then she then took, as I rewound, she was like, "Finally, I know something more than you in Star Wars." But so on the rewatch, I was really intrigued by that. We're going to get our hopes for any future storytelling around these characters. It wasn't one of those big like reveals. Oh, it's Luke. He's having dinner. It's Ahsoka. It's Obi-Wan, like, right? There's all these things, Obi-Wan trailer, all these things, which timeline wise wouldn't work. But it was simple and direct. If no, he's surviving, and we're gonna play around with that some more, and I like that.
Yeah, I thought it was really great. There, I loved the comedy of Boba Fett's right arm hurting, in that he tells Fennec that the Bacta tank is in use. And I assumed that meant that Chrysanthemum was getting his fur all over it.
Right,
but then we see Chrysanthemum, so I was like, is Max Rebo in there? Who's in who's in the Bacta tank? I love that setup, and just thrilled to see Cobb Vanth in there. I really had high hopes because loved the character, every appearance he's made, but super made me love him. In this last chapter, think it through. I've been saying to myself all week, Cobb Vanth's great catchphrase, think it through. So I was excited to see him alive. And like I said last week when I watched the episode with the subtitles, there's a lot of people yelling for med packs and stems. And so I was really hoping he was alive. And I kind of liked it as the last image for this whole big Boba Fett journey, because one of the lines from his appearance in The Mandalorian that I think has been kind of a catchphrase for this entire story is sometimes fate steps in to rescue the wretched, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is yet another moment of you are not going to be left alone to die on the sands of Tatooine.
Yeah.
The wretched are going to be rescued.
Love it. Great use of the theme there, and love that Bacta pod. Need one myself.
I mean, we really do. Toys and, more importantly, in reality. Let's move into the action. There's so many great action moments, action beats. Where did you go with some favorite moments?
Yeah, I guess kind of going almost in order, but early on, when Mayor, the Major Domo, is doing the old distraction there. He doesn't know it's a distraction. By the way, in terms of canon and the lore, let's not forget the Exit 57 Strangers with Candy, David Pasquesi, Amy Sedaris connection that we've reunited there. But
we'll add a sketch comedy lore section to our discussion.
I was texting a friend, like, we need Stephen Colbert. Like, he's like, and Paul Danilio, to come in and complete the mid-90s Comedy Central cult sketch comic series universe in Star Wars. I love that. Boba and Din jetpacking. I call it the Boba and Din jetpack attack. Just a great video game moment. Very much fun. And it kind of one of those, a little bit of the reason that you buy a ticket to get into this show. So, love that.
That was definitely one of the many moments where I was happy that my wife had encouraged me to make as much noise as I wanted.
Yeah.
That was so great. a little bit earlier, this was a non-action moment, but I just loved it, so I wanted to highlight it. The classic Boba Fett pose where he's got his hand kind of in repose on his blaster. I loved in that Cad Bane standoff that's what shows he's going to break as he moves it to the full support position. Yeah. And when he triumphs and doesn't take the bait, that he moves it back into that classic, like, my hand's up here, but you're in trouble if it's down here.
Yeah, no, we had a great fan question this week about Jason Whitgreen, right? And his voice, but also Don Frank's voice in the holiday special, and of course Jeremy Bulloch. Them kind of building a lot of the movement and the sound of Boba Fett. And anytime there's a couple moments in every episode where Tem is just walking like Boba Fett, and I just say to myself, he looks like Boba Fett. And it's like, well, of course he does. But just like, I love that small attention and important attention to detail.
Important attention to detail, absolutely. So I love that. Early on, when the Aqualish are cornering the mods, and Fennec shows up to rescue them, there's one Aqualish that is just like, let's do every Western trope at once. Gets shot out of a tower, does a big overdramatic flip out of the tower, hits an awning and water buckets. Classic Western death fall.
I loved it. I loved it. I even loved it. Then the fall kind of looks like one of those stunt dummies. Like I'm watching The Fall Guy with Lee Majors in '83, and some music's playing. From
Roger Moore dropped him out of a helicopter in the '70s, kind of look. Yeah.
Yes. I actually really liked that because of that.
Yeah, that was great. I'm really surprised at myself that I have gone this long without highlighting it. But in that great Boba and Din stand that they make, I was so hoping that we would see my beloved knee rockets again. Not only did we see Boba Fett's knee rockets go off once, we saw them go off in this that's like a yoga pose, a violent yoga pose when he's got the knee up and the blaster out the other direction.
I'm telling you, I saw those two, especially the second one, and I thought in my head, like, knee rockets in flight, a Boba Fett delight. Like I knew you were home on your couch being so happy.
Oh,
I am too, but yeah.
I just I've gone on and on about them before, but I just love them. I love that they're so scary. Of like, this guy is loaded head to toe with weapons. He's even got rockets on his knees. It's so badass, but also like kind of over the top. It's perfect Star Wars to me, and it was such a cool moment. It was like, you don't want to be around when Boba Fett raises the knee.
Yeah, yeah. It was. I mean, it's a freeze frame. Put that on a poster of just like arm out. Yoga pose of death, like you said. Just it was amazing. It just was such like a ha.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask my wife who does some yoga. Is like, what pose is that closest to? Because I'll do that. I'll work on that yoga pose. Also, in that Boba and Din big stand that they make there, there's that moment where there's a sniper that they both shoot at the same time, and then they follow him down, continuing to shoot him as he falls. And it's just a great moment of frustration of like, they're not winning, but they're going to take this guy out.
Yeah, we're going to punish you.
Punish you. Yeah. What are some other moments for you?
Look, man, Chrysanthemum throwing and then shooting a pike in midair. Come on. That's the best. That's the best.
This is Robert Rodriguez really being like, I want to come up with cool things. I want to make this like fun, over the top violence. It's so great.
Yes. Was this a Robert Rodriguez directed episode? Clearly.
Yes. I liked so much in the battle with the Scorpion X, but I liked Din doing that like full Jedi in the Clone Wars move of managing to get inside the bubble and hacking and stabbing at the droid with the Darksaber. That was really cool to be like, Din Djarin doesn't know anything about Star Wars, but he does not realize what a Jedi move he's doing.
Yeah, like he didn't watch Clone Wars, right? No. Yeah, I love that because I like the use of the shields, like, and I love the Darksaber comes out at the first moment. I'm like, oh, here we go. Oh no, he can't get through it. So I like when they finally do it. It was an earned moment for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Other moments for you?
We got to talk about Mando jetpacking off the rickshaw to save Grogu as he flies through the air. So perhaps the most important action.
Amazing. And where do you stand on what I think will be one of the most controversial moments of this episode? The Pelimoto tooth spit.
That was we were big fans in our house. Big fans. That got a big laugh from Grace, and somehow fits for the character on many levels. Love that.
Yeah, just another sort of indignity for her to go, geez, come on. Yeah. That was a great moment. The Rancor stuff, I just so loved. We'll talk about it, I think, in some of the shots, but the action, just that it really was a kaiju battle in the streets of Tatooine, and with that great over the top tradition of, monsters like Godzilla fighting robot versions of themselves. Like the Scorponeks are not directly Rancor robots, but it's got that vibe. And I think for me, I wanted to pick a couple Rancor beats. I loved when the Rancor is really taking the first one down, and Boba Fett gives a command of "do it," and the just rip in half.
It was so great because we didn't get the Rancor riding the Rancor training montage, which might make people some upset. For me, I was like, we've had some montages. I could see it in my dreams.
Yeah.
I kind of figured we get the point. This is going to happen, but loved it. Loved the use of it. And I just imagine, was there some kind of, it's almost like a Dracarys. It's just like, do it just means rip. Okay. When I say do it, you rip. Got it. Let's do it again. Back to one. And Danny Trejo's there going, he's going to pick it up. It's going to be great. So I love just imagining all that headcanon leading up to that moment.
Yeah, and just the reign of carnage. And I'm with you. The montage would be fun, but we've seen a few, and I kind of like just knowing that, like, Boba Fett's been doing his work.
Yeah, he's been doing his work, yeah.
One of my other favorite Rancor moments, there's so many, but when the Rancor arrives to that second fight, the second standoff in the still standing Scorponek droid, and enters the fight by just kind of running into a building and then just smacking that droid backhand. It was a total Rancor as Leroy Jenkins moment, right?
Ranky the Rancor! Yeah.
So that one was great. Final big Rancor action moment for me is I loved once the big scary droids were down. I was emotionally involved. I was really afraid the Rancor was going to be like permanently injured or die. I really didn't want that. So I had that tension there of like, is this going to be, he's going to take the droids out, but he's going to pay the price. It was like cathartic, letting yourself enjoy the fantasy of action when like all was left is the pikes. And they're easy pickings for the Rancor. And when he grabs the one, brings it up, Boba shoots it, then he tosses it, and we get an old Wilhelm scream. I love that Robert Rodriguez is like, no, I know everybody in the sound department has moved on, but I haven't.
A true Western where it originally originated, right?
Yeah.
Scream. Love that there. Look, we have to talk about Ranky having a mid-fight snack and eating that pike. And here's the thing. I think Star Wars fans of all ages and generations, I think if you know it, you know, it's not so much the Return of the Jedi reference that I think of. It's the reference of George Lucas in the editing suite explaining what he wants out of it to everyone in the suite. You ever seen that clip where he's like, and then he just kind of, and he sucks it up like a noodle, and people are laughing. Marshall Lucas is there, and I thought of that moment. And yes, the Gamorrean Guard, Return of the Jedi, totally. But I just thought of that moment more than that. And I just see George in some flannel going, he should be like slurping it up like it's like that. Love that.
I hope that's already a YouTube video where you get to see George Lucas saying that, and then it immediately cuts to the pike slurp. That would be so great. What are some other moments for you?
Let's go moving along here. Well, Grogu saving Dad. This is going to the moment. Again, like not surprised, and I think sometimes I think we feel things are done too much for surprise when I just don't think they are. They're just part of the story, just a plot point, or even stuff like that. And other times, I love a good surprise, but this one just all worked. Where it's like, yeah, of course he's gonna like. This just makes sense. It's one of the reasons he would be there, and how he does it, and the why of Grogu stepping for the Rancor is really important. But it's just a great moment and great visual. And one of those things where you're like, go back to 2012 when the sale happens and just go, hey, look, at one point, a little baby Yoda is going to be standing in front of a Rancor on Tatooine with Boba Fett on the ground, this guy named Din. Don't worry, you'll like Din. And just you can't imagine it. You can't think of it. You can dream it up. You can have some fan fiction and fan films, but this is just something that to actually see it on the screen, and it's Star Wars, and we're celebrating it. I just loved everything about that sequence.
Yeah, absolutely loved it. They did the shot kind of twice with Grogu, but I didn't care that it was this beautiful, heartfelt absurdity to see, like, all right, all you gunslingers have just taken a nice stride out into the battlefield across the brutal sand. Now I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
That little walk to get in place of like, and a hero shall arise. And here he comes walking, you know?
Yeah.
I went to the same head place, like, that's a baby Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
Facing a rancor, a Boba Fett's rancor that he just got knocked off of, or not just got, you know what I'm saying. Got knocked off of a while ago. It was there are these parts of Star Wars. There's kind of like a comedy beat that I like that happens sometimes where every step of how you got to where you are is perfectly logical, but then you get to that moment and just look at yourself and you're like, how the hell did we get here? It's everything that's built to it. It makes thematic sense. It's a great action moment. I'm invested in the characters, but you're like, a Muppet's walking out to just like face Ray Harryhausen beast, and I have strong feelings about this. It's the weirdest. It's when Star Wars is just like, we are weird. It is weird, and we don't care. We build the emotion into it, and you're cheering because a Muppet is fighting, what is the descendant of a, clay animatic beast.
Yeah. And going back to me as a kid being scared of Patissa there, just being terrified as a 7-year-old, that just the journey. And I think some of it is, and this is again not just specific to one generation of Star Wars fan, but I just sometimes have those moments of, I thought all this was gone.
Yeah,
I thought it was all my memories or on my Blu-rays. I didn't expect to see any of this new. Going back to that day in 2012 when the sale comes across, and I just you telling me this new Star Wars, does it all work? Is it all perfect? No, we'd have those debates to the end of time. But sometimes I just sit back and go, I just didn't think I'd get any of this ever again, and this is what I'm seeing, and it's wild and crazy and fun.
Yeah, to me, it is truly unique. It is wild and crazy and fun, and then on a dime turns and is meaningful. This moment is Rey with the Vexus, right? It's the making a choice of like, I could continue the combat, but maybe if I try to see this angry, frightened, sentient being as another sentient being, maybe there's a way out of this. The fact that just the action and the absurdity of it immediately give way to this like beautiful moment that's heartwarming and funny and all at the same time. When you lead up to the nap, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have just discussed it, but to summarize it and put on a bumper sticker, it's breaking the cycle of violence. It is finding balance when Jedi are often just there to make sure the dark side energy doesn't overtake the light, and all those things you were discussing beautifully with the Luke scene. Like it's all that, and it's built into whoa, cool, man.
Cool, man. And my last action beat, I'm sure you're here too, is a cool beat. Throughout this entire series, Boba Fett made sure to introduce Fennec Shand as Master Assassin. I believe he even says, like, I know who you are. You are Master Assassin Fennec Shand. Yes. And we have seen her use her martial skills. We have seen her use her sharpshooting skills. This was Fennec Shand as like a Batman meets Daredevil times 1,000. Assassin killer. Death is coming for you for sure, but you don't know from where. It was so cool.
Do I want an episode that's 55 minutes of Fennec Shand and her life and times? Yes. Ming-Na Wen is great, and she's wonderful. And maybe we'll get more in Bad Batch. Maybe we'll get more in this show. I'm with the people who are like, hey, more Fennec, because that's not a bad thing. But this moment here, the fight is almost nothing if the head of this snake is not cut off. So she needs to go do something that's tremendously important. It's on her shoulders. And it was cool. It was brutal. It was dark. The mare, the bones, I had the subtitles on, bones cracking, Joseph. It said bones cracking. It was brutal. And if you want some dark and gritty Star Wars moments after you got a cute baby putting a rancor to sleep, you got it. And I thought that too. Master assassin, indeed.
Yeah, it was so great because we saw so many moments of Fennec Shand changing, but she had kept asking Boba Fett this entire show of like, should I just kill him? This is a time where Boba's like, yeah, no, we might not be able to beat the army, so yeah, we better try to cut off the head, go for it, right?
Yeah.
It gives her this clear victory that is her own. She gets to accomplish, if this was a musical, her I Want song would be, I want to just take out a threat. But then the fact that it wasn't this big brawl, it wasn't Boba Fett or Cobb Vanth or Din Djarin standing out there with all their honor and pride.
Mhm.
It's her being a master assassin.
Yeah.
And again, that brutal and weird to see those Ithorian feet kicking. And then just that final that it's such great misdirection that you expect her to crash down, you expect the door to open, but like she's in the building somehow and behind him. And stabs him in the back. It's great.
We talked earlier of all the change in the episode, everything, but I keep saying sometimes you also confirm who you are and stand firm on what you know. Fennec's like, yeah, I'm pretty good at this.
Yep. Master Assassin Fennec Shand.
Action
figure on pre-order for me.
There you go. Final action. I do want to say one final action moment, Justin.
Yeah.
Want to do a shout out to our friends. I don't know their names yet. I'm calling them Snort and Oomph, and it is the Gamorrean guards who laid down their lives. They were the first to pledge their honor and faith and trust in Boba Fett, and they paid the price of this episode. And I guess someone's got to go. Someone's got to show that there's some cost to this battle. They went out. They went out. I just want to tip my cap to those Gamorrean guards.
I tip my cap to those Gamorrean guards and those mods that fell. But the Gamorrean guards, that was hard. You needed the stakes, but that was hard.
Yeah.
Let's move on then to moments of comedy, whimsy, weirdness. I wrote down a bunch. I'm going to try to contain myself. So, listeners, if you don't hear a favorite comedy line, I'm sure Ken and I wrote it down, but I'm trying to contain myself because there was a lot of great comedy. Where did you go, Ken?
The first one, again, this is this weird journey with Pelly, where 2 seasons ago I'm like, I just don't know about this. Now I'm on board. I never want her to leave. It's hilarious, and I just love the X-wing shows up, some great comedy, like you said. Of I just filed my paperwork today, and I'm thinking, I was like, I can't. It's not Luke. I'm thinking, Grogu made the decision, but then back in my head, I'm like, is Carson Teva joining the fight? Is this? Do I get my dreams of Carson Teva joining this fight? Is this the day when the cavalry shows up here? But it pays off really well. And I just love as she's trying to talk to Grogu. And I just love that R5's beeping and the pit droids are beeping. And she's like, I know an astromech flew the ship. Like, come on here. Give me a break. I'm connecting with this kid here. Give me a break. That started the laughs for me in this episode.
That was great. And also the Grogu. That's a terrible name. Sorry, pal. No one might calling you that. Like,
which isn't that, I've seen that, or isn't that that's a George Lucas quote? Is that I think that's what I'm hearing some people say that comes from George on set going, that's a terrible name.
If so, I love it even more. There's always going to be debate. Grogu seems perfect for this character, but it just felt like in her character to go, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, baby's got to eat, she says. I love that line. Yeah.
Baby's got to eat. A little. This was not necessarily intended as a comedy line, but it made me laugh when Mock Shays asks Cad Bane, "Did you convince the Marshal to remain neutral?" And Cad Bane has this long yes.
It's so it's his voice and everything. You know what I mean? But it's like it had some Cad Bane comedy in it. The guy's got a little personality.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, he changed a 1-syllable word into like a 3-syllable word. He was like, "Oh, if Palpatine can make the word good last that long, I can do the same with yes."
Yeah.
Another one I liked in that honor conversation between Din and Boba Fett. I loved it when Boba Fett said, "You really buy into that bantha fodder," which is kind of funny about itself, and Din saying, "I do," and then Boba Fett saying, "Good." It's better for me if you do. Other moments for you.
I love you mentioned if that's not the quack, they call him the stifling slimy. There's been a lot of that. I love the back and forth with Pelly and Din naming ship parts and everything from a couple chapters ago. So I like it, and it could be maybe dad jokey. It could be silly. You can just insert spaced word with real word and whatever. I've I think it's kind of fun. And so I like Drash even say, I grew up a womp hop from here. It's an important line. If we fall any further, we'll be cornered with it's her knowing the places she's fighting, her knowing her home. I can get behind all the big themes behind it, but a womp hop is something I'm going to try to use in real life now.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm really happy that I live only a womp hop away from a movie theater. I can walk there. It's great. Yeah.
Right.
Love it. Long comedy scene. I guess not that long, but a generous comedy scene for the major domo there when he's proposing his solution.
Yeah.
The part I liked in particular was I was educated on Coruscant. Not that makes me any better. And then Boba Fett's get to it.
Yeah.
That was one of those like that's the Boba Fett I know from Empire Strikes Back. Like, yeah. Come on.
Yeah. No. And again, David Pasquesi and his humor, I think it was effective. It reminded me not of his character on Veep, but just a lot of the comedy of bureaucracy and the brown nose and everything about it. I think it was effective. And I know his style might not have been for everyone. I totally get that. I like that scene. I like the beat. You got to find that line of how long or how short is that comedy beat? Because I think we all know it's coming. We all know there's something behind it. Is he going to get killed? Is he going to be? And I just, I thought in the end, I really like that sequence, and I stand by that. I really enjoyed the character.
Yeah, and I thought it was just a great comedy of like, look, I'm so sensitive about what I say. I've got all of my little caveats ready to go. I can have a lot of caveats myself, so I felt I felt a little skewered by that one, but fair enough. Fair enough. It's great. Other moments for you?
Comedy line from Pelly with two the major domo. Nice tails, and then get behind me, pretty face. Pelly's got you covered. Again, the simmering tension between these two is just jumping off the screen. Especially, she's working on herself. She's not going to date a Jawa right now. Appreciates the offer. I'm not saying they get together. I'm not saying it at all. But it just was funny, good subtext there, and especially since the joke against his tails early on, which I thought was played very well. Of like, oh yes, it's hilarious every time I hear it. Paraphrasing, but I just like she's like, hey, nice tails, pretty face. I got you. I thought there was a poignant joke as well as a funny one.
Yeah, no, it was great to turn what had been just like an awful thing that an awful character said to him into a weird compliment from Pelly. Because at first I was like, hey, wait. And no, I watched it again. It's like, oh, no, she's complimenting his head.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I do like, I expected that Boba Fett was not actually offering anything on the tablet. And I was rewarded, though, I thought he was just going to stop at nothing.
Right.
But I loved what it actually said, which the Major Domo had to read, which was, the arid sands of Tatooine will once again flourish with flowered fields fertilized with the bodies of your dead. Who knew Boba Fett was a poet?
It's beautiful. Just beautiful prose.
It is absolutely beautiful. Now that is a cross stitch to put up in your home.
Yeah.
I don't know if this fits into comedy, whimsy, heartwarming. It made me make a noise that it's hard for me to categorize. Grogu's full-on leap into Din's arms, right?
Oh, that was a round of applause in our house when that happened. And it's wonderful. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, you needed the strength of it. I got just a few more. How about yourself?
Yeah, about the same for me. I did enjoy the manners. I like it. I loved a lot of that stuff there. It's generational connection, right? Like I'm here for the change that your generation brings, but hey, try not to be a complete a-hole to me.
Yeah. Enough of this old timer attitude. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that there. So yeah, that's for me.
I think probably my favorite comedy line in it is the Pike's reaction to discussing whether or not Tatooine is a hospitable place to do business.
Right.
Pike leader says, half of my men were either shot or eaten by a rancor. Is that what you call hospitable? It's so great. I love those lines that take exactly what we just saw and reframe it from a different perspective of like, but that really happened to them. And you think we could still do business here. The final two for me, I loved seeing in the circle of family that Boba Fett has built, the rat catcher droid, the LEP droid.
Yes. Actually, yes, I love that.
Absolutely great. And I'm sure you have this as well. Absolutely a great comedy timing. Grogu's insistent tapping with the silver ball.
Oh yeah. Again, I loved your conversation about that scene, but at the end of the day, I'm always going to choose that scene if it has Grogu not just tapping, but leaning up against the glass and fog forming on it from his breath.
It's just this joyful sense of fun, and it's their dynamic of this this little family where Din doesn't quite know how to be a dad, and Grogu has some impulses. Is just so great.
Yeah, I love that there.
All right. Any other comedy moments for you, or should we move on?
No. I'm going to keep laughing at the ones I've listed here.
Excellent. Any directorial moments that jumped out at you?
I like in it, like I've been saying all the way through. This is definitely Robert Rodriguez directed it. It's a big, wild action. You said it too. There's sometimes there might have been a repeated beat or two, and it sounds like I'm being negative, but it's just like they dumped it all on the table and they had fun with it there. But and in that, I found some wonderful perspective shots, right? Looking through the Rancor's mouth, or even Din's. I called it the heartburn move when he launched fire into Ranky's mouth. There, Boba Fett showing up, getting the hero shot on top of the Rancor. I just loved a lot of those little moments. You could find them within this action. I enjoyed that, and then they took the time with the Cad Bane standoff. You can list all the influences of Westerns and what have you. I get it. But this is also a great Star Wars moment with two great Star Wars characters with Star Wars history. And I just thought to choose in this wild action and this script and to give me that moment, I was happy them finding the time for it.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I love that Star Wars pulls from lots of genres. Mando and Boba Fett have pulled a lot, from Westerns and samurai films, and a thing that animated shows have pulled from Clone Wars in particular, and their little individual beats in the big movies, but just the kaiju, the big monster, right? The Godzilla, King Kong, in the fact that the Rancor was shot to utterly celebrate that on live action in this big episode. That Rancor reveal shot with one claw, another, the boom of music, then the head, the roar, and then Fett riding. It was just like, it was a love letter to not only that moment for Ranky and Boba Fett, but just the influence that is being injected into Star Wars of those kaiju movies.
Yeah, absolutely. Star Wars loves its influences, and as it should, and that's how it was built. George's nostalgia for the things he was affected. That should always be it, and I love that. And it always seems to work really well for the most part. And this is no exception for this episode.
Yeah, it's got that spirit of why not? Like, if we have a tormented, misunderstood beast that is being shot at, hell yes, it's going to climb a tower exactly like it's King Kong.
Yeah.
Because we're having fun here. That's what we're doing here. So I love that as well, the Rancor climbing the tower. Last thing for me is those very interesting cuts after Fett kills Cad Bane. It was really effective to make you kind of feel what Fett was feeling of this kind of moment of accomplishment, but moment of rage and letting go of it and turning around. It's just really beautifully done, I thought.
Yeah, Rodriguez was able to find a lot of that stuff. I said earlier, like Bryce Dallas Howard just as a master class in just smooth, just every moment, getting emotion from every scene. And this one was a little louder, like I said, it was a little clankier. It was a raw garage rock band at times playing a song, and I'm okay with that. I think Star Wars can have all of it, but he found those moments when he needed to.
Yeah, absolutely. The distortion was turned up on this episode. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you wanted to?
Not within the episode. There's so much to it. This whole series has been wonderful depth beneath some wild surface fun, and this was no different. So no, I think we touched on everything I needed to talk about.
Cool. Taking a lead from what you have remembered to do throughout this show, I really want to just do a shout out for the stunt people, right? I mean, this whole show it's highlighted them and put them in some acting roles, but this episode was just a triumph for stunt people, right?
100%, 100%. Yeah, and it's just been one thing I love, and for those on the outs, just who watch movies, I'm saying outside that's kind of rude, but just watch movies, maybe not, in the industry, stunt folks are just not only amazing, but sacrifice themselves for a lot and don't get a lot of credit, don't get a lot of rewards and recognition, and they should, and it's a overlooked side of our industry, I think, a lot. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
parts of the industry that are overlooked and need reworking. This we get, but it was always fun for me every week to be like, oh, who played that character? Oh, it was a stunt coordinator. Oh, it was Brie Larson stunt. Like that was real fun all the way through, and has been part of even Mando as well.
Yeah, agreed. Now, I do have to ask you about the great controversy. The song has lyrics in there, Fett, Boba Fett, Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett, Fett. Were you okay with that? Did you like that? Or was it anything for you? Was it too on the nose? Was it too cheesy? Did it remind you of the Star Wars with lyrics sketch from Saturday Night Live?
It did. Yeah, the Nick the Lounge Singer, come on. And it's the best. Look, do you know the lyrics I make up for my songs I sing to my dog? They're worse than that. It was, yeah, we sit up top, like over the top. Yeah, I'm fine with it. You know what I mean? Like we all want to sing and dance to Yub Nub. Which is wonderful in its own right. Like I think I loved it. I'm glad it wasn't every episode. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm sorry. I'm going to be singing it for weeks. I'm going to be singing it for weeks. And that's my thought on it there. Some might hate it. Some might want to toss it in the garbage. I don't know. I'm just going to be going around Fett. Bo, 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 bo. I mean, Grace and I were already singing it. I'm singing with my name. I'm singing it to Baxter the dog here in our house.
I might change it to my alarm to wake me up in the morning of just suddenly, Fett. I think I like it because I like all the depth of Star Wars. Obviously, we spend a lot of time talking about the depth of Star Wars, but I like that Star Wars has this sense of fun, and it's not afraid to do things that might be a little too this or a little too that. And I feel like it works because this show has been about Boba Fett coming into focus. It's the Book of Boba Fett. It is his chapter of the story. It is the study of who is he. And I like that. Well, in the final chapter, the lyrics come into focus. Fett comes into focus. And now it's not just sounds. It's his name. His name is ringing out. You can almost interpret it as like it's a song they sing in Mos Espa now because that's who he is, you know?
Max Rebo has returned because I know he's not dead in my heart, and he's leading everyone in a sing-along. A framed photo of Garza on the wall. Rest in peace, Garza. Like, yeah, absolutely.
That is a great segue into predictions or hopes for the future of the Mando-verse. We'll have lots of time to talk about this throughout podcasts, but I want to touch on it briefly here as we wrap up. Are you hopeful for a Boba Fett season 2, another Book of Boba Fett, or are you excited about the idea that he's set up where he is in this time period and that he has good odds of being wrapped up into a mission for Mandalore or some other assistance for Din or Ahsoka or Bo-Katan?
Yeah, I think that's the way I want to look at this going forward. Like I think we had this little wonderful side journey. Like I said, I'm not saying Din passed through it like he's taking us around the galaxy, but in a way he is. And we got some bigger questions. I definitely don't need, I don't need Andor to connect to this. I don't want Kenobi to directly connect to this, but it's Star Wars. It's Star Wars, and I am intrigued by Cobb Vanth, and if Mando needs help or there's something beyond it, I don't think you could just do another season on Tatooine and a new problem arises. I think that would probably not sit well with a lot of folks, and you and I have no problem going back to Tatooine, but after a while, okay, I want to see where you can take these characters out and into the galaxy again. So I'm kind of hoping for that.
Yeah, I think I'm really hoping that Boba Fett and some of the main other characters in his story, at least in this season, his story, that Fennec Shand gets her due, that we get to spend some time with Cobb Vanth. But I can really see it being this is part of a Mando-verse. Boba Fett, if there's a coalition of, Mandalore needs to be taken back, and Bo-Katan has an idea of what Mandalorians are. The Armorer does. Boba Fett has a tie to this culture, whether he thinks about it a lot or not. Din's got his relationship. Now Grogu has made the choice to be a Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. It really makes sense for me for Boba Fett to get wrapped up in that journey and have to face that part of his legacy.
Yeah, that's the forgotten, not forgotten, but yet to we haven't had that deep dive yet, right? On Mando,
yeah.
Mando and Camino, or excuse me, Boba and Camino and Mandalore. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
And since they gave us the tease, I'd love to see Cobb Vanth pop up somewhere. But I agree with you. Like right now, just a straight up season 2, I'd be happy to see it because I'd like to spend more time. But I would have real questions of like, how do you make this, a different kind of story on Tatooine? I also just like that these characters are set up in this place because I wouldn't mind a book. I wouldn't mind a comic series of,
Oh yeah,
Boba Fett's troubles being the daimyo. But so it's great that possibility is there as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Want to touch very briefly on the setup for Mandalorian season 3. Another thing that happened is, for me, it all tied together thematically, but we're all set up for Mandalorian season 3 to just start racing forward in an N1, literally. Do you feel like, the first season is Mando trying to protect the child and kind of figure out what's really going on with the child. Then it's him, as he tells everybody in the second season, on a quest to bring him back to his people. Now they've chosen one another. Do you think the main mission of season 3 is Mando trying to go to those mines, trying to go to Mandalore and redeem himself?
I do think that. I think he still feels that. He still feels very much like that code is real, right? And we discussed it, and maybe different use of it now. This is the way, but I think that clearly weighs heavy on his heart, and I enjoy that. And I think there's a lot. Maybe a reckoning with the armorer coming, and Paz Vizsla, who knows? And I will say this. I'm going to go back and watch Mando season 2 soon. I said I haven't really done it since it aired. And I want to see, that ending, that powerful ending with Grogu and Luke, which is wonderful and emotional and sweet and closes that chapter. Remember, we were even thinking, I don't know, maybe we'll never see Grogu again. Maybe we'll see him when he's a teenager with a mustache. We don't know.
Yep.
and here he is. He's right back. And I think I like this. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to, that decision, there's more to talk about with Luke and everything and what he did, but Luke taking him and training him. And then that's kind of that separate story. I maybe have to admit to myself I wasn't on board with that as I thought I was, and the fact that they're reunited and they're going on, and he chose to be here, and it's a new chapter of both their lives. I'm really intrigued by that more than Grogu becoming the first student of Luke's school.
Yeah, no, I think it is. It is just for me. It is great storytelling. I know some people I think might be frustrated of like, well, why did he go to Luke at all then?
Right. Yeah.
And for me, it is all about choice because look, the thing that hooked us in the first season of Mandalorian, when you get to chapter 3, the sin, right? We're all screaming at Din, save him. And Din makes that first choice. And after that, he makes choice after choice. And every time he chooses Grogu. And for me, it's so much richer that Grogu got this opportunity to go, I think I need to go over here, and then go, wait, no, I don't. I want to be with this guy. I want to be a part of this.
Yeah. So I like where we are.
Yeah. And to me, it really makes Grogu a Mandalorian, and it makes them on a quest together of what is their clan of 2 going to be as Mandalorians as they go in search of the history of Mandalore. All those lines from the Armorer, right? About the songs of eons past foretold of the Mythosaur rising up to herald a new age of Mandalore. It's a great line of dialogue and a commercial for season 3 of The Mandalorian.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. We could talk a lot more about Mandalorian season 3, and we will in the future, but let's wrap up a nice long episode about Book of Boba Fett by talking about merch, a big part of Star Wars. Ken, if you could have any merch based on this episode, what would you want?
I'm going right to the cute. You've ever gone to like a zoo or a theme park and you have like a giant, shoot a ping pong ball in a little bottle, and you'll get the 14-foot plush tiger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want a Grogu and Ranky the Rancor plush set, but to scale. So I want it like the Rancor takes up your entire car, and then there's like the little Grogu, and you can just put them together and they nestle together in your living room in the corner next to your beanbag. I think this is what I want.
Anytime that I can't sleep, I'm going to picture that. It's so beautiful. I love your mega-sized Rancor and Grogu body pillow idea. I think is absolutely great. I could spend a ton of time listing every 3 3/4 vintage action figure I want, from Tanti the bartender to Drash on her space Vespa to the rat catcher, Pelly, on and on. Action figures that I would love. Red shirt, Cobb Vance, called elderly by Wikipedia.
Yeah, still bad.
Disagree with that. I would love a ton of characters, but what really amused me, Ken, is when I came to think about this idea. I was like, Well, you know what I want is a vintage 3 3/4 Rancor with Boba Fett. It could be a HasLab. Wait, this just happened where they tried to do the Rancor HasLab project. People weren't happy with it, and it didn't work for a couple reasons. I know it is not exactly the same, but for me, it was kind of a comedy thing of fate steps in to rescue the wretched. Of regardless if they do 3 3/4 or Black Series, I bet a Rancor with Boba Fett riding with an eatable pike. That would be fate stepping in to rescue the wretched in terms of a HasLab project. And I think that one would get funded pretty quick.
I think so. Ride that momentum, ride that wave.
Ride that momentum like Boba Fett learned to ride that Rancor. Well, that is our big look at the final chapter of the Book of Boba Fett. Ken, do you want to let people know where they can find us?
Yes, thank you all for listening for not just this episode, but the entire season of the Book of Boba Fett. We know a lot of new ears came on in. If you want to follow us, you can do so on Twitter at ForceCenter Pod or on Instagram, YouTube as well. You can like our Facebook page, ForceCenter Podcast. Podcast available a lot of different spots, Acast, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and others. Just look them up. We're there. And you can get an audiobook on us by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. You can get merch at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. You can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. We always say it, but I think it's even more important with the, sometimes that Star Wars discourse reaching some levels of anger that it take away some joy from folks. Not that discourse isn't a good, fun thing at times, but if you support us on Patreon at any level, you get into our Discord where you can go in and have just fun discussions, generally supportive. Even disagreements are worked out pretty easily, and we don't have a lot of them. It's just a good conversation with Force Center friends. So that's what we feel is a big appeal of supporting us there. If you so choose, you can follow me at Cad Napzok or go to my website, cadnapzok.com, for all the fun, silly things I do. Joseph.
Yeah, you can find me Twitter, Instagram, TikTok is at Joseph Scrimshaw, and you can find all of my other comedy adventures on my website, josephscrimshaw.com. But for now, for myself, for Ken, for Ranky the Rancor, this has been the Book of Boba Fett Report.